Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you. Thanks for joining us in prime time. I'm here with the publisher engineering team, and we are going to talk about our soon-to-be released, highly anticipated recipe card plugin for WordPress. I'm here with our three publisher engineers, and I'm going to go ahead and let their team lead, Jordan, introduce everybody.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I live in Greensboro, North Carolina, and I lead the publisher engineering team, and we have a lot of exciting projects that we're bringing to you, but the first is our recipe card plugin. We're joined by Ethan in the ball cap and couch, and Seth against the white background. I'll let them introduce themselves. Ethan, go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm Ethan. I live in Durham, North Carolina, not too far from Jordan. We've been really working hard on some exciting features for the plugin. And we're excited to show it off to y'all.
And I'm Seth. I'm in Madison Heights, Michigan, just outside of Detroit, and pretty much everything Ethan said. We're just excited to show what we've got.
Excellent. And to tell you who I am, I'm Jenny Guy, coming at you live from Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm the marketing associate for Mediavine. You can see that we're really prioritizing video here, and we're working on giving as much content to you guys as we can going forward. So let us know if you're interested in different topics and what you want us to be talking to you about. All right, I'm going to start out with some questions for Jordan. Tell me why Mediavine is devoting all our resources right now to creating WordPress plugins.
So one of the reason our team was created and the reason that we're working on recipes is that the Mediavine found that their initial success was powered a lot initially by food bloggers, and so we wanted to give back to that community in a big way. There's been a lot of problems with recipe card plugins, not just meeting the needs of the community. And we found that for a lot of our publishers, it was the best value of their content. And so if we can empower them to be better publishers and more successful in their publishing opportunities with a better recipe card plugin that is built ground up for speed and quality, we felt like that was a valuable experience and something worth going after. And so that's why we started with recipe cards. It's also going to inform a lot of the future of our plugins and sort of create the framework and structure that we need to be able to create excellent plugins going forward that make all of our content creators more successful and enjoy creating their content more.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I know that we talked about the other day is the high performance, the most valuable content, which is what monetizes best usually on websites. So can you talk a little bit about that?
So I got to say, I'm not the biggest expert on that particular space, but one of the reasons we were told and we were sort of pointed towards recipe cards as a valuable ad for our content creators was that the ads that were placed inside recipe cards had some of the highest return of value, that they're the most valuable slots on a lot of web pages. And so by making your recipe card nicer, more effective, and making sure that it has opportunities for that high value content to be monetized effectively, it helps improve bottom lines for all of our creators.
Absolutely. Thank you for that answer. Okay, so this is going to kind of come from the whole team, but tell me why the Mediavine recipe card is better. What sets it apart from all the other cards in the space?
So I'm going to start with a little brief. We really spent a lot of time at the very beginning talking to users and looking at creating a user experience first and worrying exactly what our users were looking for and needed before we worried about how we were going to build it. After we started getting into build it, I'm going to pass off to team members to talk about specific aspects of the project. For example, I'm going to pass it to Seth to talk about the efforts we made for the reading experience for our users and the outstanding experience that we're creating for the people visiting your sites and the experience they're getting. So Seth, do you want to talk about the creation and effort we did there?
Yeah, so one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we did was we set up the plugin so that the actual output can first display multiple recipe cards onto a post. We heard a lot of people wanted that, and some of the plugins are limited to only having one per post. So we had to find a way that we could display multiple, but also that we could do it fast. And so one of the things that we did, just some magic behind the scenes, where we just go into the database one time, make one single call, and pull in all the data that we need immediately so that we have it and we can build up the recipe card right from there, which by doing that literally saves so much time in the loading of your plugin. We also partnered up with Lindsay Landis from Per Design so that we could have quality looking cards, one that you are all familiar with most likely, and having something that is just eye-pleasing and good for others to see and use.
And then I'm going to have Ethan talk about the backend experience and how we created, I think, a best-in-class and sort of standard, like one of the best experiences for editing and managing your content. So Ethan, if you want to talk about how we built our admin.
Sure. So thank you, Jordan. So when we were talking to users, we heard several pain points just with the actual editing aspect of recipes, where a lot of the existing plugins kind of make editing a chore and a crapshoot in terms of what you're actually getting out of the plugin. So one of the things that we're all really proud of is the ability to preview recipes as you're working on them. So whenever you're making a live change, whether it's to your ingredients, to the instructions, you can see how that's actually going to look for your users. Some other cool features that we've been working on are a really seamless integration for recommended products. So let's say there's a particular piece of equipment that you want to link out to. We have it set up so that if you link to an Amazon page, it actually scrapes the data, the title and the image, and displays it right in your recipe. There are some other cool things too. One of the things that I had the most fun building was actually generating previews of how a recipe would look if you're converting from metric to imperial or vice versa, right directly in the preview.
We're also providing support right out of the box for multiple themes, so you can choose between three themes and 2 different color options for some of those themes. We've also worked pretty hard to make sure that what is displayed to your front-end page will match your site as much as possible, because we're not trumping a lot of your styles and your font selection, so that most of our cards will keep their shape, but will help blend into your site and feel natural.
Another thing that we also added was we put in schema. So we are directly putting in all the output that is required so that Google can take all the data for each recipe card, and in the proper format, multiple image sizes, all of your ingredients, everything is listed out beautifully, so that way Google will get as much data as they need and your post will be able to be found.
From the backend perspective, we actually specifically architected our plugin to be as fast as possible. We find that we're not having any issues with page speed, and we're very happy about that. We want to make sure it's very performant, and so we've worked very hard from the ground up. We've created special and unique technology specifically inside WordPress to make our plugins very fast and very reliable. So I'm really proud of the work that this team has put together to create the best-in-class tool that we're going to be releasing to you soon.
Awesome. Okay, guys. So let's talk a little bit through the recipe card itself and how it works. We were going to do a screen share, and we're experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties with that, but we'll have the guys talk us through, and we will do what we can to get it up on the screen.
So to be fair, if you really want to go look at it, we do have a public URL. We're happy for you to visit barleyandcraft.com. It is a completely fake site full of content that we basically put together with the help of, for me, my wife. I basically asked my wife for some recipes that I could put on the website. So don't hold that website against us too hard, because it is mostly developers pretending like we know how to cook. But you can see some cards in place there. But if you look at the card, basically you'll see that there is a lot of the primary components: the title, description. We've created the rating system that is a 5-star rating system that does blend right into schema. That UI, we still have a few more things we want to do to touch it up, but we're getting really close, and I think it's going to be an excellent UI for end users. We have the ad units are built in so that they'll be highly performant. The other thing about those ads is that they blend in with the content at any size. So we're working very hard to make sure, again, the performance and the value is there for our publishers.
We're still having some issues opening up our screen share, but let's go to a couple of questions here. Jordan and everyone, can you talk a little bit about importers?
So we're still working on importers. I know that we have plans to, let me get a list of the importers that we're planning to support as soon as possible. We've been working hard on EasyRecipe. Our importers are going to take care, we're creating what we're calling Omni Importer. The idea behind that importer is that rather than have to worry about what your specific existing recipe was, we are going to recognize that by parsing your data, looking at your posts, and seeing what recipes exist there. And so when you get the process to bulk import, you're actually going to get a list of all of the recipes on your site. So if you've had 3 recipe plugins over the last 5 years and you never got around to converting all of them, you'll have an opportunity to pick and choose which recipes from which plugin you potentially want to import. We think that process is going to be the best we can provide, and so we're going to work hard to do that. I'm looking up the list of importers right now. So I know it's EasyRecipe, ZipList, Simple Recipes Pro, WP Recipe Maker, WP Ultimate Recipe, and Meal Planner Pro, as well as Tasty. Those are our goals. I'm not going to promise today that we're going to hit every single one of those importers day one, but we are going to have them out as quickly as possible. I know that Simple Recipe Pro, EasyRecipe, those are definitely going to be done. Recipe Maker. I think the only one not on our list to necessarily have day one is probably going to be Tasty. This team's done such amazing work, and we're ahead of schedule right now. So I'm anticipating that we might be able to hit everything on that list. Jenny left, so I'm just going to keep talking. The UI, we're also creating some custom UIs to make sure that it's as easy as possible for you to run through an importer, both as a bulk import where you're grabbing multiple recipes at once, as well as if you want to go post by post and do it manually and sort of be very cautious about how you manage importers. We know it's important that people maintain their content and not lose anything, and so people are going to want to double check and be careful about how they run their imports.
Hey, Jordan, I'm sorry about that. I got kicked out. All right, so we have a question, if we can grab one. Do you guys mind if we go a little out of order here?
Fine.
Great, so we've got a question from Betsy. Hi, Betsy. So she wants to know, so she said the photo in the recipe card has text over it. Will they be able to change or delete the text on the image?
So that text is the text over the recipe card on Barley and Craft? Is that what we're talking about? That text is actually generated. That's part of the text in the HTML. That's the title, and that's created inside the card. That's part of the HTML that they're editing when they edit fields for the title and the number of servings in a card. That's one of our layouts. We can also hop in, and in a few minutes we'll change to another layout so folks can look at that too. But yes, the text there is going to be editable in that particular layout, but it is not something you can get rid of because it's part of how the title of the recipe is displayed. And Seth, could you talk a little bit more about that card?
Screaming baby and trying to mute myself. I didn't pay attention.
There we go. He's not muted.
Oh, sorry. I was saying that we were talking about the recipe card that's being displayed is the full width image card, and there's text that's laid over the image. Can you talk a little bit about how that's managed and how that's edited?
How it's managed?
Yeah, like how do they edit the text that's laid over top of the image?
Oh, it's just the title of the recipe. So sorry, I've kind of lost right now, but I guess are we?
Jenny, could you
Jordan,
repeat the question?
Yeah, repeat the question.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a question from Betsy, and she was saying that the photo in the recipe card that we're showing has text over it, and she was asking if we would be able
Yes.
to change or delete the text on that image.
So yeah, that is basically just the actual title of the recipe itself. To delete it, I don't think that is possible, but you'd be able, since these are put into a post actually, you could just put a post above, an image above that post and have that, and then use a different theme. But I would recommend probably keeping the title on there because that's critical for Google, and it's also required for the recipe cards to work anyway.
So Betsy is now asking a follow-up. Are there other layouts without that text over the image?
I'll swap the layout right now, and she can look at another option. There isn't another layout like this one where it's got that full width image, but we have other layouts that don't do text over the image.
We also have a question about, Jennifer asked, there isn't any nutrition information on the card. She wanted to ask if that was going to be available. I know we talked about that.
Ethan, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so one of the things that we spent a lot of time working on the UI is entering nutrition really painless. So we have fields for any nutrition value that you would typically find on recipes: calories, protein, carbs, and all of that's opt-in. So by default, it's not going to display anything, but as soon as you actually provide nutrition info, it'll show up on your recipe. Jordan, do you know if we have any demos, any recipes on the demo site with nutrition included?
I will go and make sure one of them does.
So yes, the answer is absolutely. We're trying to find a way to showcase all those themes for you. I'm sorry, we're having an issue with the...
I've swapped another to a different theme. This one's got a circular image at the top, and I can go to another theme here in a little while so that we can get through all the themes.
Just keep circling through so everyone can have another window open and be able to check those. I'm not even able to open it right now. So we've got some people are asking, will they be able to import from Simple Recipe Pro or Tasty?
Yes, we are planning to support Simple Recipe Pros and as well as Tasty.
Great, excellent. And then another one, what about recipes from Yumly?
I don't think we have plans in the immediate release for Yumly, but I'm sure we will be continually supporting this plugin, and so we will be looking at other tools that we need to import and should be imported going forward. So I don't know that we're going to have Yumly ready when we launch in the 1st of June, but I would expect Yumly to come along not too long after.
Terrific. Okay, so we've got from Amy Katz. Did you say that we could add Amazon links on those ingredients?
So you actually do have the ability to add links to ingredients, and that's not just Amazon links. That can actually go out to any URL that you want if it's something hard to find, maybe. So the intention was that you would use these for affiliate marketing links. So if you get some sort of referral for a particular URL, you can include that. And then we also have the ability to include recommended products outside of the ingredients. And those will show up down at the bottom of the recipe. So the answer to that is yes, you could link out to Amazon, but you could also link to anywhere.
Excellent. Okay, so we've got that. Now, Jennifer's asking, the nutrition isn't auto-calculated, so do they have to plug in the nutritional values of each ingredient?
So for this particular release, the nutrition is going to have to be manually entered for the whole recipe. We do have plans for subsequent releases and features that will support automatic nutrition calculation to the best of our ability with some external API support, but that feature is not going to be available at the 1st of June.
Okay, so let's look for another question. So can we actually go ahead and expand on that, Jordan, what you just said? What features will be available when we launch in early June? And then what are we looking at adding as we move forward?
So we've hit most of the boxes for almost every other recipe card plugin that's on the market. We managing multiple recipes in a post, managing recipes thoroughly, being able to add custom custom authors. Really, we have support for nutrition information, for custom products, ingredients separately from fields, pastable instructions, pastable ingredients, notes, title. Images, our Google schema actually includes all of the required and requested Google schema images. So we're generating all of the necessary image sizes that are needed for Google values, Google schema. And that's something that Seth can talk about more. What we are not going to have day one is essentially just the automatic nutrition calculation. We're using a manual nutrition information calculator for now. We are not going to have an automated system that will take your ingredients list and calculate your nutrition on right away. That is a feature that we have planned, but we're going to start putting together some external APIs and services to provide that feature as soon as we can. Seth, can you talk about the JSON schema and like what value that SEO provides?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So basically the value that it provides is Google specifically has a set of standards that they want to see online, so that way they can have all those pretty pictures that come and the ratings that are associated with your recipes online. And using JSON LD, we don't have to clutter up your markup with each of those things, and that way we can actually put in extra data that might not necessarily be displayed but needs to be shown for Google. And so that's the benefit of using JSON LD, is we've got it so that it's optimized for Google to quickly see exactly what they need, grab it, and then output it onto theirs if they choose to do it, because what Google decides to do is what they do.
But it is worth noting that this plugin is going to be continually supported. So as Google makes adjustments, we will be making adjustments to the plugin to support as many features to maximize the SEO value consistently.
So speaking of maximizing value, we just had someone ask us what the cost is going to be.
The plugin is 100% free for every feature that we're releasing in June.
Woohoo! Everybody give us a happy emoji. Okay, in addition to that, we've got a couple more questions about conversions. Will WP Recipe Maker work for importing?
It is absolutely on the list to import, and I've started working on it this week.
Easy Recipe.
Yes, that was the first one we started working on.
Yes.
That one actually works pretty much right now.
Hooray. So we've got Jennifer coming back. She is back on nutrition. She's asking, once the audio calculate is available, we'll import that info from previous plugins.
So we're going to import, so the importer is going to import whatever nutrition information is already available. When we create our automatic nutrition information, yes, it's going to be able to garner that information against whatever recipes you already have. So if you create a recipe in our plugin or have imported a recipe in our plugin that does not have nutrition information, when we release the service that does automated nutrition calculation, it will be able to do it retroactively for existing recipes.
And just to quickly jump in here, Jordan.
And another thing that we want to point out is that this plugin is going to be open to everyone on the WordPress repository. So it's not just for people who are not just our publishers with Mediavine, but for anyone who wants to use it, they are free to use it, along with all those features that are being included for free.
Exactly. We've got it's open to everyone, not just MVPs. So it said, no, there's not going to ever be a cost with it. We had someone else ask. Jennifer is asking, will we be able to customize our brand colors in the design?
So we specifically are not trumping colors. If you have some colors for buttons and some link styles, those are going to be inherited from your existing theme. There is not going to be an editing interface to edit styles of the card immediately. However, we have worked very hard to make sure that we have implemented methods that will be easy for you to hire or potentially find a developer willing to create custom layouts for your card. Seth, can you talk about how you created a views engine to make it easier for other developers to potentially build cards for our plugin?
Yeah, so we basically set up the plugin so that we have the default setup for the theme, and then we have multiple themes all within the plugin. But if you have a theme on your own website, you can create specific files that will override any of the files that we've created. So any developer who knows how to build something that, if they've ever used, let's see, Events Calendar or WooCommerce, it's a similar templating system to those. And we built it so that people would be able to, a developer to be able to easily copy what we have, put it on there, and modify it however they want. And then that would override the theme that's already in place. So you can have something completely custom that matches your site exactly how you want, however you or your designer sees fit. And it's pretty simple because there's no extra code that's really required. It's just building out the template and putting in the things where they need to go.
Excellent. So we've got one more thing here. So we've got someone saying, Shelby, I use Yumly right now, and it does not leave a place for me to indicate I am the author, which Google recommends you have. Will this recipe card have a spot where you can add the author on it, or is it automatic depending upon who is writing the post?
Ethan, why don't you take that one?
Cool. I was planning on it. So it's actually automatic right now. So whoever adds the recipe gets assigned as the author. But we actually we left this purposely flexible so that you can assign any other user on your WordPress site to be the author, and you can also include just any arbitrary name that doesn't necessarily have to be associated with the user. So if you have someone doing a guest post on your site or something like that, you can really make the author anything you want. But to answer the original question, it will default to whoever is creating the recipe.
We just had another question on cost. Just really quick to reiterate, guys, there will not be a cost
Maggie
associated
asked, how do we
with
get
any.
the plugin? Well, the plugin is going to be on the WordPress repository. So it's not out yet, but when we release it, we'll be sure to announce it to everyone, and you'll be able to download it and start using it then.
So again, just real quick, there will not be a cost associated with any version of the plugin. Not right now. We don't see that happening in the future.
We don't have plans for that right now.
Yep. So right now it's not in the cards. So Peter wants to know, will this version of the recipe card give users the ability to adjust serving sizes and have the ingredients update accordingly? So auto updating on that.
Not on this version. No, we're not going to have auto updating of ingredient amounts for serving size, or sort of, it's not going to auto scale the recipe for serving counts at this release. I think that is a feature that we have discussed. And one of the things that we are going to be listening about in all of our support forums, and sort of, we're looking for feedback. So as we release the plugin, and since we are going to continue to support and develop it, we will be interested to hear feedback from users about features that they really want. And that information is going to inform how we make updates and what features we add down the road. So this is not like something where we're going to fire this plugin and be done with it. Those kinds of features, the features that if you run into a feature that you want, that you feel is valuable, get in touch with us, and we will put it in our, what we call our backlog or our inbox, and we'll go through that, and basically whenever we can, we'll start adding more features. So I think that while that is not something we'll have out of the gate, it is something that I believe we have discussed, and that would be coming potentially down the road.
And we're always open to feedback, guys, on anything that we do here. So either message us on Facebook, send us an email to publishers@mediavine.com. We'll collate all that feedback and be sharing with our publisher engineering team, because certainly we're never, as you know, we're never done working. We're going to keep progressing and making the plugin and everything else we do better with your feedback. Okay, so I've actually got a question from the Facebook group a while back ago. This is from Michelle Price. She wants to know what they can be doing to get ready to move to the Mediavine recipe card plugin now?
We're working very hard to make sure that there's nothing you need to do to be able to migrate successfully. So I'm not going to promise that everything is going to go off perfectly, because there are a lot of cases out there, but we are working very hard so that that you'll be able to import your existing recipes as seamlessly as possible. So I don't think there's anything that you need to do right now, unless Jenny has some ideas.
I don't have any ideas on getting your recipes ready. Just keep taste testing, which is my best advice as a non-food blogger. So Andrea is asking, if we have to manually input nutrition info, do we have recommended resources to get that information? I don't know that that's something that we have considered on the development level for the plugin, but we can get back on an answer for that. Michaela, yes, we are scrolling
Andrea
through.
asked if they have to manually input nutrition info, do you have a recommended resource to get that info? Ethan, I believe that you had shown us a resource somewhere that had all of the nutrition info for a lot of things. Do you remember what that was?
You can get that information from a couple different resources online. But at the moment, we don't really have a recommended resource for that we would definitely go to.
Yeah, we would have you ask that question in the Facebook group. I think that's one of those questions that's perfect for crowdsourcing. And I think that we'll have a lot of great suggestions that you can get in there. Another thing we wanted to quickly talk about, just in case that nasty J word comes up, the jump button. We are not going to be supporting that through the recipe card plugin. Honestly, guys, it just really isn't great for your revenue and your advertising and for your content. So we're not going to be supporting that out of the gate, not with the Mediavine recipe card plugin. Let me get some more questions and see what else we've got. Oh, this is a great one. So from Ann Smith and Adrian Urban in our Facebook group, they're asking about non-food recipe capabilities like WP Recipe Maker, like for instance, formulas for skincare, or is that a later model? So Jordan, can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, to be perfectly honest, I have no idea what that would be. I don't know what would be required to meet that specific need. And so what I would say is that if you could leave some feedback for us, we're happy to talk to you about what maybe that might need to be to deal with, because again, I don't have the expertise to say what we would be able to do to help and create a recipe or add features to our plugin that would enable you to do that. So I'm not going to be able to answer that because I have no idea what you would need. But I'm happy to take that feedback and make sure that if it's something that we can integrate with, we will.
Again, can you guys hear me?
Yes, Jenny, we can
Sorry
hear you.
about that. I keep getting kicked out. So we've got a question about the recipe index page, excuse me. Noreen wants to know if we'll have one. And we've got a couple of people asking about that.
I know that that is something we've discussed. It is a feature that may or may not make it into this initial release. It basically comes down to making sure that we hit all of the other things that we have on our to-do list. And if we have time, I think that a recipe index is perfectly reasonable. I just can't promise it at this point that we'll be ready for the immediate release, just because we had a lot of features that we had to hit, and I'm not going to make that promise today. I can say that we are evaluating and making a decision about recipe index soon. And if it's not part of the initial release and we are going to support it, it will come probably shortly thereafter. We'll make more detailed announcements about exactly what you can expect and what is in the final version as we get a little closer. So I would say maybe.
To kind of add on to Jordan's answer there, one of the features that we're really excited about is just how easy it is to insert recipes or multiple recipes into the same post. So we have some tools built out where you can really easily filter your recipes by ingredients or other parameters. So if you wanted to do something that was kind of like a roundup of all your best chicken recipes, or like tofu recipes if you're a vegetarian, you could totally do that pretty easily just by searching for certain keywords too.
It's a really great feature. So we've got, Deanna asked us, SRP was bought by Tasty and made a mess of the recipe, which was missing nutritional values, etc. Will the plugin help us straighten out that mess from that?
If your simple recipes are still intact, yes. Like I said, part of the feature we have is the concept of an omni importer, where basically rather than just grab whatever recipe importer you say you want us to check, we're actually going to check for all of the ones that we support and give you a list of all of the recipes that we found. And then from there, you can say, instead of opting to import the Tasty version of a simple recipe import, you can opt to import the original simple recipe version. Potentially, that means that you can recover some lost data, because we are working very hard to make sure that you're not losing any data in the transition. Like I said, we built some really great tools for interfacing with data and in your database as well as in posts to make sure that we are gaining and keeping as much data as is absolutely possible. Additionally, working very hard to make sure that if there are things that appear that they might be errors, we're going to do our best to make sure you know about them and so that you can carefully handle that specific case.
Excellent. Okay, I'm checking in for questions in our group. Does anyone else have any? Scrolling back through. Oh, Jennifer wants to know if this ad space will now have a higher RPM.
I don't know enough about what RPMs actually are, to be perfectly honest. So
sure. So will that space earn better? Now will the recipe card help you in terms of ratings?
Additionally, we'll also be supporting. There'll be options to increase the number of units that are in a recipe. So if you have a recipe with a long list of instructions, you will have the option to enable additional recipe. Hey, look, Eric's joining us. This is great.
Welcome, Eric Hochberger.
Thank you. I feel like I could probably answer that question. Yeah, no, absolutely. The ad is designed specifically for higher viewability, so it's going to earn a much higher CPM. And as Jordan was alluding to, new with the recipe card is the ability to have multiple ads appearing inside of a recipe card. So we won't just be able to have an ad next to the ingredients, which is kind of that signature original Mediavine spot in recipe cards, but now we're also going to allow for longer form recipe cards to get multiple ads in it.
All the monies. I just told Eric he's a little bit echoey. He's a last minute addition. We tagged him in. So we're trying to get going what we can get going here. Yeah, the BBC interview kid. Okay, so let's see what other questions we've gotten here. We're working on a place to collate all of the feedback for you guys. Facebook is always good, and I know we're going to be working on an FAQ for you all as well in the future. Any other thoughts on how we can keep everybody's feedback collated?
I think for the publisher engineering team, feedback from users is critical. It's one of the reasons we had a booth at the conference. We wanted to get feedback immediately. So we will be evaluating additional tools to make it easier for us to get your feedback. And to make sure that that feedback is something that we are regularly checking through. We keep a long list. I have a habit, and since I got to Mediavine, of trying to never say no. I will say maybe, and I might say not yet. But I avoid saying no as much as possible. And so I take feedback very seriously, and we'll be making sure that we have tools available to try and intake as much valuable feedback as possible and consider your feedback when considering the next next release that we plan. So I think that especially as we go forward, after we get past this first release, finding tools that make it easy for you to provide feedback is going to be very important to us.
So we just got a question from Alice. Will the new recipe card carry over starred ratings from the other recipe plugins?
Yes, it will. It will keep starred rating as well as, and it'll take, so our review system is actually independent of your traditional comment system. We think that might be a better way to handle that content. So we will be importing existing reviews so that we can keep those. We'll keep your star ratings. They will be carried over with the import. And then you will actually be able to do things like you can parse through and eliminate troll comments and troll reviews that are meant to be hurtful and have nothing to do with your actual work. Additionally, that is a custom UI where you'll be able to sort your reviews by recipe, and your reviews are tied directly to a recipe rather than to a post, which makes it a lot easier for you to make sure that content is tied directly. The star rating is also part of the JSON schema that we output, so it's going to be picked up by Google.
So guys, just to share too, we're also going to be at EFC. If you're going to be at EFC and you're watching right now, share us in the comments. We're going to be doing demos and getting your feedback on cards that we're going to be collecting and bringing back to all of our engineers so we can make sure that we get as many of the features incorporated either in our initial release or in subsequent releases as we move forward. Okay, I got another question in here. Will the recipe be able to convert between imperial and metric measurements?
So I'll speak to that. So we actually have it set up so that there's a site-wide setting that you can toggle if you write an imperial or metric. There's also a setting that you can use to kind of leave it more agnostic. So if you're into baking, a lot of times you'll have measurements that are in metric, but then other things that are in imperial. So right now we have the ability to preview how that would look in the admin, and one of the features that we're excited to start building is the toggle for that on the front end of your site as well. But that's a feature that I can't guarantee will actually make it into the June 1st release, but it's one of the ones that's definitely one of our priorities.
Excellent. Guys, can we do a quick run over of which we're going to be able to, plugins will be able to port easily? Julie just came in late. Shame on you, but we're so glad you're here. Will you go ahead and just let us know one more time which ones are already ready? Easily better.
I'm not going to tell you which ones are ready because we're working on those right now, but the plan for our June release is Easy Recipes, Simple Recipes Pro, Zip List, WP Recipe Maker, WP Ultimate Recipe, Meal Planner Pro, and Tasty. I am not prepared to guarantee that with my life, but we were working very hard to deliver all of those.
Jordan, we only want guarantees here with your life.
I will guarantee that Jordan will develop all of those.
Eric, he's back again, guys.
We will be doing all of them. Really the question is making sure, like we said, one of our priorities is making sure that there's no lost data. And so we're not going to ship anything that we are not 100% confident will be effective and do its job properly. And so we would rather ship a smaller number of initial importers and release something the next week, 2 weeks later, that has that additional importer that we know is going to work reliably. We know how important all of the effort that you've put into recipes over years of work, and we don't really want to rush those things and find that they do damage to your site. So we're going to be working very hard and making decisions about what we're ready to ship based on whether or not we trust it and believe it will do the job safely and reliably for our users. I've been looking at and using our publishers' sites, and I'll be using more of them to test and sort of implement our recipe importers. And I've seen how long and how much work these recipes and these posts exist. I'm reluctant to ever ship something that I'm not completely confident is safe for our users.
And I've got to tell you guys, we've seen your struggles with recipe card plugins, and I'm actually going to toss it over to Eric since we've got him here. Eric, I know that you were a lot of the impetus behind getting this created and putting this as our focus. So can you talk a little bit about why this was so important to you?
You're only blaming me because Amber's not here.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Jordan kind of touched on this earlier. The recipe card is such an intimate part of the blog, of the food blogging world. And we know there's a lot of these, and a lot of them are done really well. But I think one of the most important things that they haven't been doing is focusing on the things that are most important, especially here at Mediavine, which is page speed, our obsession. So we want to make sure that if you're running things such as auto-optimize, we don't get in your way. As the developers on here mentioned, we have incredible database optimizations, which basically mean we're going to be able to not slow down your server, which is really important. And then really it comes down to just ad performance. As your ad monetization partner, one of the most important things is how well your site is monetizing. And in addition to having a faster site monetizing better for you, if we can give you a recipe card, which is the primary focus of your food site, and design it purely around the most optimized ad experience, well, not purely around, but as long as we can design it around ad performance, it's going to perform better. So partly out of greed, obviously, so that you're making more money, we're making more money. But really, we wanted to make sure that the most important thing you're doing as a food blogger is optimized, and that's the recipe card. And I think you'll see the same thing with all the other plugins we have in the works for other niches and just general blogging.
Thanks, Eric. Absolutely. So lots of reasons, but money.
But money it's one of them.
Good.
Yeah.
It's one of the few. It's one of the reasons. I'm asking people if they've got any other questions. We've got time to take one or two more before we're finished here.
So it looked like there was a question from Becca. Will we have the ability to include photos in the directions? So we actually do. We build that out so the directions and the notes for recipes work using a similar WYSIWYG to what you're used to in WordPress. So you can include images, anything that you've uploaded to your media directory, and then you can also include shortcodes in that as well. We're not guaranteeing that every shortcode out there will work perfectly, but for the time being, it does have support for that.
And one thing I do want to make mention of that was asked earlier is, what do you do with non-food recipes? So as many of you know, if you mark up a non-food recipe in schema, you can get dinged by Google and not being allowed to show any more rich snippets, or you lose that SEO boost that you were getting from having JSON plus LD markup. So that would be for the non-food side. So what we're doing is we're actually going to be releasing a whole new card, name still pending, but it's going to be designed for DIY, craft, and people that create non-food based recipes, but things that still have materials, things that still have instructions, things that your users still want to be able to print out and have with them. So we're working on a whole new lightweight plugin. So it's going to be actually separate from the recipe card, but designed for people that want similar functionality. So yeah, that's coming as well. So it's not just going to be for food bloggers.
Eric, can you talk a little bit about when we might be able to see that?
Sure. I believe there is a pretty major crafting and DIY conference coming up soon, and it seems like that would be a good time to target a release date for this new plugin.
I don't know if anyone's heard, but yeah, Haven Conference in Charleston. We're going to be there. We've got a great suite planned, and we're going to be doing demos, live demos with our publisher engineering team of the new craft card, name to be determined. So we will have a cute name for it by then, or we'll have you guys help us name it. But we are going to be there demoing it, and we're excited to get your feedback on that one as well. Let me see if we've got any other questions in here or anything from our engineering team or our boss to share before we sign off tonight.
I'm just excited to be putting together some great projects for our publishers coming up in the next 6 months. Our recipe card plugin is just the first step in a large family of plugins and utilities, I think, that are going to make our publishers just the best on the internet. So I'm looking forward to providing this product soon. Ethan, what do you got?
I'm looking forward to keeping trucking on this. We've done a lot. We have a lot to go, but we're all really excited with the direction things are taking. I'm really excited to be down in Charleston for the Haven Conference in July. I'm showing off what we'll have built by then. yeah, just very excited with where everything's at.
And we will support importing from Yumway. That's what I'll add at some point.
That's a good ad. So guys, thank you so much for being with us tonight. We've got more Facebook Lives coming up. On Thursday, we have our Facebook Live with Pinterest. 2 team members will be doing best practices. And then next Monday, we've got a Facebook Live with Jamie Hainick-Lieberman of #Legal. We're going to talk about GDPR. And we're going to keep coming with these Facebook Lives and content for you guys. Subscribe to our YouTube and give us feedback about what it is that you want to hear from us and what we can share. But for that, that's going to be us for tonight. Thank you for being here. Have a good night, everybody.